but I'm starting to get back into the schedule that I'm trying to get into.
You haven't dropped out of school yet?
No, I can't drop out until I have something that's at least that I know that's for sure gonna work.
Yeah.
So then I guess I have to stick to this until I know that something for sure works that I can go to.
Forget all that, man. Just drop out. I wanted to talk about a little bit of finance stuff. So this is just the basics. Kind of see where you're at. So kind of tell me what you know so far, or what's your kind of perspective on finance?
My perspective on finance is that um, I know there's different ways to do finance, but I don't. The only way that I really know right now is that you have like you kind of um, you just go get a job and you save your money until you want to do stuff. That's pretty much all I know. And if you want to pay your bills, you take the money out of your account from your job and you pay it. I mean, I know that there's other stuff, but um, I haven't looked into all that other stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean that's pretty much what most people will do. When I was your age, when I was in college, that's kind of what my understanding was also. So a lot of this stuff came like my understanding came later, and so.
Have you been on a journey about this? Have you been on a journey of like understanding stuff?
Oh, life is a journey, man. We stay learning.
Because you're a doctor now, right? Doctor, right?
I mean, what's a title? It's what you do with it, right?
Yeah. So, but after that, now you're on this journey. This is a different side.
No, I mean we'll talk about it. We'll kind of see that it's not so different, right? Because I mean, why do you think it's so different?
Well, I think it's so different because that's not traditional of what other like. I thought you'd be since if you like gone through school, you'd be like a very pro school guy, you know.
Oh.
Or you'd be like, yeah, go to school, do all this. So I'm surprised to see someone who's actually seeing a different side. I need someone like this who can show me what else there is other than school. Because I mean, like I said, I don't have like too much of a draft to go to school, but I don't have anything. I don't have anything else that I know I'm gonna do that's gonna work. So I mean, and Achuma was saying she was like, if I jump out, I'm not living at her house. So like, I'm not gonna be. And since I want to be still living here instead of living in Buckeye, I guess I'll still go to school until I can get my own house.
Oh. So you're just doing school in the meantime, kind of like what we were talking about before, right?
Yeah.
But if something good pops up, you're out.
Yeah, if something good pops up that be somewhere, I'll dip.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll talk about kind of basics of finance then, and then you kind of see how that might tie into things. My perspective is coming, obviously, I went through school, but did you, actually, I think I wrote that. I talked about on one of my videos about degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch that one?
I mean, if it's one of the ones you sent me,
Oh.
talk about how you should only get a degree if what you want is you need a degree for it.
Yes. Okay, so that's the main part right there. Like that answers the question right away. Like what is it exactly that you're trying to do? So if you go on like the job website, let's say it's Intel or whoever it is, whatever company, you go on their website and then you just look for the position that you're interested in and it will tell you specifically what they're looking for. So they will have either 5 years of experience in the field, or they might say a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. So automatically, that just kind of tells you how far you need to go and what you need to do school wise, right? So that simply answers the question. So if it's talking about you can just do it with experience, then that answers part of your question. Well, you can just go ahead and do it without the degree. With healthcare, a lot of the fields you require it requires a degree. So you're kind of stuck. If you want to go into healthcare, you're stuck. You have to do a degree. But depends on where you're trying to go. So you haven't fully figured that out though yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the hard part. So what you don't really know. So I mean, it's not bad that you're just sticking with school because at the end of it, if you get done with it, you still have something to fall back on. But kind of what we'll talk about now is opportunities that you can use while you're a student, while you're younger, that might help you out financially. Because a lot of people, what they want is financial stability, right? If you have a good flow of money, you should be fine. You don't have to worry about, like you mentioned, where am I going to stay, or how will I provide for the things that you want. So if you have financial stability, you don't have to worry about that. And in your assumption, you're thinking, well, if I go to school, I'm able to um, I'm able to get that financial stability, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like if I go to school, um, what's it called? I there's really nothing for me, and I want like what's it called? If I can find good financial stability, then I could go to school for maybe for especially and really focus on like the social networking aspect. That's why I want to do it. Because because school brings a lot of people, and so maybe I could just choose a random major and focus on the networking aspect and really like try to make friends and network.
Mm. But
But
right now, you're
if I
focused
have
more on the educational part, so you're not doing the socializing part as much.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a different story in its own that we can talk about. But let's do this. So let's talk about finance then. Okay.
All right.
So with this one, I have a few points that I want to go over. So the first one to kind of set this up, right, is a mentality. So you have to kind of have the right mentality.
All right.
So that's kind of why I was curious about what your perspective and what your knowledge is on just finance in general.
Okay.
So for mentality, we'll start with this. So you've heard that phrase, right? Money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
So what do you think that phrase means?
Um, I think that phrase means that like money can take you like to a bad like if you have a lot of money, then you won't care about people that much, and um, like maybe you'll get into things that you usually wouldn't get into.
Yeah, and I think most people will think of it that way, right? Like money will make you bad and it'll put you in this bad situation, right?
Mhm.
But we have to step back from that. So this is the mentality part of how we have to look at money, right? So people think money is this, it's good or it's bad. Like money can be good or bad. And the reality is money is none of that. Money is simply a tool, right? It's a tool.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like if you have a screwdriver, right? A screwdriver is not good or bad. It's not evil or good, right?
Mhm.
So money is the same way. If you put a lot of money in the hands of someone who is inherently good, it could allow them to do more good. Or if you put money in the hands of someone who's inherently evil, it could cause them to do more evil. So if you put a screwdriver in the hand of a killer, I guess they can use it to go kill people, right? Doesn't mean the
Mhm.
screwdriver is bad. Or you can use the screwdriver to go build a water system for the needy. So it's more of the person, right? It falls more on the person, not necessarily the tool. So money is that way. It's a
Yeah,
tool. So if we look at money as a tool, we can understand that while money will help us achieve whatever it is that our goals are, and it doesn't necessarily put us in a evil or a good position, right?
yeah. Wait, hold up. Let me write that down. So it said money. Um, it's like money will make you. What's it called? Money doesn't. If you're a bad person, then money is gonna make you more of a bad person.
It
If
can.
you're a good person,
If you're a good person, it can allow you to do more good, right?
yeah. Hold up.
So the main key there is that money is a tool.
Yeah, money is a tool, and it just can like it brings out your true character, I guess.
It could, but more of what you want to look at is that money is a tool that will allow you to achieve your goals, right?
Okay.
If your goal is to do more good, money can allow you to do more good. If your goal is to do something evil, money can allow you to do more evil. For example, buy a gun or and shoot people, or I don't know, whatever the case may be, right?
Okay.
So if we look at money as a tool, then we can go to the next part, which is goal, right? So we have to define what a goal is, what your goal is. So have you ever thought about your long-term goals, where you kind of envision yourself being?
Um, I kind of have,
Okay.
but I need to think about that a little bit more.
So as you're doing that, I want you to, when you're writing, I want you to write it down and make note and be very specific about what your goals are, what you envision yourself, where you envision yourself being, and also write a time frame of how long or when you envision these goals being achieved, right?
Okay.
Because then that's important because if you look at your goals and you see you outline them, so can you just throw me out, let's say, two goals that you might have for your
Like
life?
two goals.
Yeah, just two random ones.
One of them I have is to get Chevy Corvettes,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one I have is to get try to get an apartment in California.
Okay, so two of those. So if you were, so this will be the drill when you're writing down these goals. After you write those goals, then you can write more specifics about it, like what year is that Chevy Corvette? What's the floor plan of that apartment? Is it a 1,000 square foot? Is it just a small apartment that's like 200 square foot with no kitchen? Is it three bedrooms, two bedrooms? Is it by the beach? Is it by Hollywood? Where is it? So kind of write those details down, right? Because
Alright.
then when you write that detail, then it tells you specifically how much that will cost, right?
Mhm.
So then you can look up on, Zillow or wherever, and it'll tell you, well, this is how much it will cost for you to get that apartment. So
So let's say,
now you see,
hold up. We write it down.
so the main thing, write down, just be specific with your goals and kind of detail it.
All right.
Because
I'm good now.
when you detail it, you have more a more concrete idea of what that goal will be like and what to look for and how to achieve it, right?
Yeah.
So you've written all those down, and then you see how much it costs for that apartment, whatever it is. And then the next step is to see, well, how am I going to achieve that goal, right?
Mhm.
So let's take the apartment in California, for example. So just give me some broad details, some general idea of what the details will be like. For example, how much it will cost.
Um,
And it doesn't matter if it's accurate, just throw a number out.
like how much I think it would cost,
Yeah.
like a month or.
Both of those, because that's important. Because we'll talk about why that's important.
And it's probably Cali, like let's say around the Cali area.
Hmm.
So I'll probably say like 4,000, like 4,700 a month
Hmm. So how much will that be in a year?
in a year. That's 4,000, 4.7 times 12, which is 4 times 12 is
It's almost like
48.
60,000, right? Not 60.
Yeah, so about somewhere about 60,000. Yeah, I'd say.
Sure. Let's say 60,000, right? I think that might be off. But point being, you have a monthly expense, right? And then you have a yearly or annual expense, right?
Mhm.
So that's very clear. So when you're then planning, right, you kind of know how to make a decision. Well, your monthly expense is going to cost you, or let's say you're looking at an opportunity, right? Let's say it's a job. If the job is paying you $50,000 a year, now you know, well, I have to look for a different job because that job's not enough to cover how much, your goal is, right?
Mhm.
Or maybe you look for a different apartment. Maybe that's the case. But let's say you really like this apartment. That's how much you want to pay, and we can't change that. So then you look for a different opportunity that will allow you to be able to make that payment, right?
Mhm.
So that's important because now you see how, as you're more specific with that, writing down your goal, it can guide you and direct you a little bit better, right?
Mhm.
Because for you right now, if I offered you a job for 50,000 a year, right? You'll probably be like, okay, that's a pretty good deal. You'll take it, right?
Yeah.
And you just be like, well, whatever happens, what happens. You kind of figure out as you go. But if you just keep doing that without really writing down the more specifics about your other goals, you'll come to realize that, oh, wait, I'm not able to achieve that goal, right?
Mhm.
But if you already knew ahead of time, right, that it will cost you 60,000, so when I offered you that job for 50,000, maybe you would have been like, is there any way we could negotiate the pay to, let's say,
Mhm.
70,000? Because then that gives you a little bit more comfort to pay that, and then you have excess money to do whatever you need, right?
Yeah.
So you do that, and then let's say I say yes, and now you've set yourself up better for that goal. Or if there's another opportunity, let's say there's two companies that you're looking at, and one of the other ones offers you 60,000. So you can kind of make that decision. Or let's say it just costs you 40,000, right? For the apartment
Mhm.
a year. And let's say those two companies offer you the same amount, or let's say the other company offers you a little bit more. Well, you know both of those companies are offering you enough, right, to cover your expense.
Mhm.
But let's say the other company is closer to your house, or it's just a company you really like, but they're offering you less. And let's say it fits more into your philosophy and your goals for life. So you can make that decision and say, okay, I'll go with that company because it more aligns with my other goals and philosophy, and they're still paying me enough, even though the other company is paying me more. This other company is a little bit better because they have all these other benefits that meets my goals. So you can make your decision that way. You see how that's beneficial there?
Yeah. Wait. So you're saying even if a company is paying me less but it has more benefits, if it's still fitting my goals, then I could still choose that company over more money.
Yeah, because at the
Is
end
what
of
you're
the
saying?
yeah, because at the end of the day, it kind of has to meet with your goal. Let's say your goal is, so we'll go into more into the goals then. So if your goal is to make as much money as you can, just make a bunch of money, right? Which one would you go for?
Mhm. Then I'd probably go for the more money one, or more
Exactly,
income.
right? So you go for the one that offers you the most money. Not only the one that offers you the most money, but at the end of the day, the one or the situation where there will be more money in your pocket. So with more money in your pocket, let's say that job offers you $70,000, but you buy an apartment that costs you $65,000 a year, right? At the end of the
Mm-hmm.
year, you only have $5,000 in your pocket. Let's say the other company offers you $50,000 a year, but then you get a apartment that costs you 20,000 a year, right? You have 30,000 in your pocket. So in one case, even though your
Yeah,
overall
makes sense.
salary is lower, your cost is lower, so you're still able to make more money. You're technically richer than the other person. Do you see how that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the most important thing to me that would make me that would be of riches, like how I'd explain riches is like how much time I have to spend versus like how much money I'm making. Like
So
if I'm making,
if it takes you 10 minutes to make $100 versus 1 hour to make $100, you're saying what are you saying there in that scenario?
then then I'm saying then I'll take the 10 minutes, or like I'm trying to say like let's say it takes me 10 minutes to make what's it called? Let's say it takes me 10 minutes to make $500,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes me an hour to make $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take the 10 minutes and $500. If that
Because
makes
time is
sense.
valuable, right?
Does that make sense? Yeah,
So that's
because
why I
I'm really.
said, so that's why I was saying that other job, they might pay you less, but if it meets your other goals and values, right, and philosophy, it might be a better
Mm-hmm.
deal overall compared to the other one, right? Like, let's
Yeah,
say, huh?
I said yeah. I said yeah.
Yeah, so you value your time, right? So one company offers you, well, we'll pay you this much, and you know, you don't have to work. Well, you work till you get your work done. So let's say you get your work done really early and then you have all that free time. So you can get your work done and make that amount of money in however long it takes you to make that versus the other company might be working you like a lot. So you're spending a lot of time working
Mm-hmm.
and sure you're making more overall, but as you can see, it starts eating out on your time and other things that you value, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're writing your goal, it's not just okay, I want to make X amount of dollars. I want to live in this place. I want to have this car, right? It's okay, I want to have this amount of free time. Not just free time, I want to have this amount of time to be able to do X, Y, and Z. I want to have this amount of time to be able to travel. I want to travel uh, 30 days out of the year, right? I want to be able to do that. So let's take it back to that job offer. So you have the job that's offering you two jobs, and one offers you 30 days of paid vacation, right? The other one
Mm-hmm.
offers you only 15 days of paid vacation. But you have in your goals that you want to be able to travel, let's say 25 days out of the year. So with the other one, with one job, it's kind of guaranteed that you might have that time to travel because you have 30 days of paid vacation, right? Versus the other situation where you just
Mm-hmm.
have 15 days of paid vacation. So that's another way of evaluating an opportunity when it comes to you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So all of this is good because then as you're writing your goals, as I mentioned, when you have clear goals, you're able to then evaluate and then decide on different opportunities in a much better way, right? In a way that matches your future goals and sets you up better for those, right?
Yeah.
So all of this is important because we kind of need to lay down the foundation and say, okay, why are we even doing this? Because if you don't really have a good foundation, you'll just go anywhere. Someone offers you this amount, you'll go do that, right? Because compared to what you have right now, it's probably a lot more. Compared to this, it's whatever the case may be. You might just go ahead and do an opportunity or take an opportunity where it doesn't really help you out in the long term with your long term goals, right?
Mhm.
So then that comes into play with school, I guess. So that's why I'm joking when I say drop out, but in kind of a serious way, maybe you should drop out, right? Because if you
Mhm.
look at your goals and it's like, well, I don't really need a, I don't really need, so if you're looking at your goals and it's like, well, I don't need a degree to achieve all these goals, right? Then it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't need, I don't need to be in school. So it makes the decision a lot easier, right? But if you look at your goals and it's like, well, I do need a degree, then it makes the decision, a lot easier because it's like, yeah, I need to be in school to be able to achieve those. So if you write those goals and make it very clear, it makes it easier for you to come up with that decision, right?
Mhm.
All right. So we'll go to the next point. Did that make sense? Are you good on that point?
Um, what I got from my practice was create detailed goals, create like the cost for the goals, write down like goals for your free time, and like maybe write down vacation time. I mean, what do you think? What's it called? What are all the aspects, or like how do I find all the aspects of the things that I should write a goal about? That's my question, so I can really know what I'm going into.
How do you write better goals? Is that what you're asking?
No, no. I mean, not just write better goals. Like, what are the aspects? Because I know to write better goal, I be more specific. I write down the time, like the date, and like be more detailed. I know that I'm just saying what are the aspects? Because the aspects that I have right now are maybe you make goals by your free time and maybe your vacation time and like the cost for the goals. And I'm just trying to see what other aspects of writing goals are that I need to like make sure I incorporate when I'm writing goals.
So it's not necessarily for vacation time. I was just using that as an example. There's some people who really enjoy
Yeah,
that. So what will
but
be
that's a good goal to what's it called? I'm trying to say. I mean, that's a good goal to write down. That's a good specific goal that I can think about too. So I was actually
yeah. Yeah, so that's like a good part of
but
what you're looking for. So more specifically what you can say or more generally what you can say is okay, I want to have 20 so quantify it. So with all these goals, just quantify it, like put some number to it. All right. So the quantification part and then what it is. So I'll give you one example right now. So I want 30% of the year to be able to do leisure activities that I want to do, that I'm interested in. So if we take 30% of the year, right, that will be nine, no, 108 days.
be like 4 months.
That'll be 108 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want 108 days to be able to do leisure activities, whatever that is. If you want to learn how to ski, if you want to travel the world, if you want to go volunteer and do this, whatever it may be. So I said vacation time, but vacation time can fall under leisure activities. So you see how there I quantified specifically how much of it and what it is, right?
Mhm.
So when you're making the goals and or the aspects you have to have the components of it, you have to have some quantification on there. So you have to be able to quantify it and then specify what it is. So it has to take into consideration your values. So whatever your values are, if you some people like Bill Gates now, he's made all this money, and you kind of see people what they do with their money after they make it. So Bill Gates just does pretty much not for profit or volunteer, not volunteer, philanthropy. That's the word. He does philanthropy work these days, right?
Mhm.
So that's something he values and that he deems or he identifies as being important for him to be able to do philanthropy. So for him, let's say he has an opportunity. So, or for writing your goal, right? Your goal will, for him, it will include some form of philanthropy, right?
Mhm.
So that's taking into consideration his values. So whatever your value is, so put that in there. It has to take into consideration that if you have a family, if you want to raise a family, um, whatever that may be, and then it also has to take into account your, you can call it fun, for lack of a better word. Um, that's kind of that example, the leisure activities, just things that you find interesting and fun. Um,
Mhm.
you know, you work hard, play hard. I'm saying that part because maybe that's a bias on me. I like to play hard also. I don't want to spend a lot of time
Mhm.
just working. So for me, it's valuable that when I look long term or when I write my goals, that there's some aspect of fun in there, right?
Mhm.
Um, so we have values, we have fun, we have relationships is a good one. So relationships, if you're someone who values relationships, whether it's with family, friends, whatever the case may be, that's a good one to put in for your goals. Okay, does your future goals involve other people or is it just you? If it's just you, you can take more risk. You can kind of do things that, only impact you. But if you have other people involved in your long term goals, then you have to take them into consideration. So that's a good aspect to kind of put in there.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that's enough, or do you want me to give you another example?
Um, what's it called? I'll just use these for now. See how they work.
And really, it'll just depend on you. Like, just do some, soul searching and kind of think of, okay, what do I like? What's valuable to me? Time is something it sounds like that's something valuable to you. So there has to be some time component in there when you for your goals, right?
Mhm.
So it's based on kind of what you value. Those ones I gave you, they're good general ones, but they also take into consideration part of my bias of things that I like. There's some people who are like, who cares about fun? Just work till you die, right?
Yeah.
So there's no fun aspect in their goals. Um, so yeah. All right. So does that make sense then? So let's go over that part. So mentality, just being more specific with your goals and kind of understanding what your goals are,
Mhm.
and then also realizing that money is a tool, and it's nothing really good or bad about it, or evil or good about it. It's more of just a tool and how you use it. So we'll go to the next part where we kind of bring those two together because then how can we use money, right? to then work on our goals or to achieve those goals, right?
Mhm.
Because if you want to spend 108 days out of the year doing something else, first of all, that's 108 days that you're not making money, right? Because you're not working.
Mhm.
And then those are 108 days that you still have bills and other things that need to get paid. And that's 108 days that you're using money to then do whatever fun activity it is you're doing, right?
Mhm.
So there's that part, and money can help you achieve those goals. Once you've written that down, you can say, okay, this is how much it will cost. And then you kind of know how much you'll need to make to be able to support that. So this is now the money being used as a tool to help you achieve those goals, right?
Mhm.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And then also when you're writing the goals, also write the time frame, kind of like how I mentioned. So let's say your goal is to move to California and have that apartment in 5 years. So that will be 2025.
Mhm.
You know how much it will cost to have that apartment. Well, let's say it's the Corvette. Let's say it's the Corvette, right? Because that's a one-time payment. So it's the Corvette. You know how much it will cost to own that Corvette. So you have 5 years to make that amount or find some way to get that money to pay for the Corvette, right?
Mhm.
So there's a time frame, so it's not just up in the air. You have to do this in 5 years. Let's say it's a 1 year. So 1 year versus 5 years. 5 years you have more time to kind of play around and save little bits here and there and find ways to do it. In 1 year, you have to be more aggressive, right? And maybe put more of your money that you make into a savings and save it so that you can make that payment for the Corvette, right?
Mhm.
Versus 5 years, you have more time to kind of play around and you have some room to breathe before you have to make that payment. So the time frame is important because it tells you how aggressive you have to be with meeting certain goals so you can plan accordingly, right?
Mhm.
All right, we good on that part?
Yeah.
So then this then goes into another part with mentality. So the last part of mentality, this one was big for me because when I was in college, I really didn't think this way. Uh, my my duty, my parents sent me to school. My duty was to just go to school and get good grades, study, and that was it, right?
Mhm.
So that's all that was on my mind, and that's what I focused on. So this is one of the big parts that I learned, lessons that I learned, kind of why I was like, okay, let me talk to you, or why I have those videos that kind of talk about some of these things that people can do, why they shouldn't go to college, all of that, because it's just stuff that I've learned, and it would have been nice if I knew back then. So this sets you up better. So mentality wise, one thing that I did not really think much about was that I can make money, right?
Mhm.
I don't know what your mentality is right now, but when I was in college, my mentality was I had to get good grades and that was it. I didn't work. I didn't look into any options for how to make money, right? There was no,
Mhm.
I didn't explore any options for doing that because in my mind, I wasn't thinking about making money at that moment. I figured I'll finish school, I'll go work, and then I'll start making money, right?
Mhm.
But the reality is, I could have made money while I was in school, and it would have set me up much better for the future if I had that mentality that I could make money, right?
Mhm.
Do you feel like you have that mentality like, oh, I can be more actively making money now? Or is it more of, I'll make money later on?
This is how my mentality is. I feel like I could make money now, But um, the way I respond, I've been choosing to respond to like them saying I'm too young, and so I've been choosing to be like, I've been choosing to listen to them, and to them saying that I should just focus on what I have now. And so, because I've been choosing to them, basically, it all comes to the fact that I haven't been thinking that I need to make money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you've been listening to them, and they said you're too young to make money right now.
Yeah, and because when I chose to listen to them. I didn't have to listen, but it's because I chose to listen to them, and because I chose to listen to them, it basically goes to at the end of the day to the part where I do feel like I don't need to make money, and I should just focus on school right now.
Exactly. So that was kind of my mentality also. So, you know, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But here's here's why it could be beneficial for you in the long term, right? Because you're much younger and there's opportunities around you. And once you get older, when you look back, you will be like, I wish I took some opportunities back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really wasn't thinking like that. Um, it's not like these two are separate. You can have both of them together. So you can be going to school and doing all of these, your usual activities, and you can just slide this underneath there and also make some money. I'm not talking about becoming a millionaire or making, a crazy amount of money, right? I'm talking about just
Mm-hmm.
the money that you have right now. How can you make more money with that?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I didn't do because I did have some money coming here and there. I wasn't fully working, but every now and then I'll get some money. And I could have used that money wiser. I could have used it smarter. So the goal here is not to say, okay, forget school and everything else I'm doing and just focus on making money. The goal here is to say, okay, I have some money that I'm making here and there. What can I do with that money to optimize it and make more money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that mentality, like, yeah, I can make some money and start looking for opportunities, that puts you in a good place to set you up for the future because, like I said, you're younger, so there's more opportunities for you, and you can take more risk, and that can set you up. And the other thing is that right now for you, it's a really bad time overall in the world because of the coronavirus, and a lot of people are suffering from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a silver lining because a lot of people who end up being very successful and making a lot of money, they see situations like this and they see the silver lining and they see opportunities that they can take advantage of. And when they take advantage of those situations, they're able to then gain some benefits out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you right now, and going forward, if you're looking and you see different opportunities that arise, it's good to take advantage of those opportunities while you're still at school rather than waiting until you're done with school and then things are no longer what they were before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's kind of important to have that mentality, okay? So to just recap on that one, having that mentality, it's good because then it allows you to be more active and looking for opportunities.
So the mentality is like it's good to take advantage of opportunities right now instead of waiting.
Pretty
Is
much,
that
that's a
the
good that's a good summary. Pretty much, because I
okay?
started by saying you can make money right during this period of
Mm-hmm.
time, rather than just thinking, oh, I'm going to make money later on. Changing the mentality to saying that yes, I can make money right now. When you have that mentality, it allows you to take more opportunities when they arise.
Season like where recognizing. It's important to recognize and take the response of not feeling like, oh yeah, later I'll make money, but instead understanding that right now I can be making money, and I can then be able to take advantage of more opportunities
as they come.
as they come.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because you see how if you still have that mentality, like I'll make money later, if an opportunity came to you right now, you'll probably just be like, well, I'm fine, right? I'll make the
Yeah,
money later. Versus if you
exactly.
have that mentality, like I can make money right now, you'll think, okay, let me see how much I can put into this, and then try taking that
That's
opportunity.
that's so true. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. There's something. This is a mentality I'm gonna have to have for me. I'm gonna have to put this in my affirmations.
And this just assumes that money is a big part of your future goals. For some people, money is not part of their future goals. Like, it's not very central to what they need to do. So, this might not be that relevant. But if what you have to do and you write those goals and you specify it, and at the end of after you specify and you say how can you achieve that, if money is still required, then this is a good way to set yourself up so that in the future you're more able to achieve those goals, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. How are you doing right now on the information? Is it all making sense?
Yeah, it's making sense. I'm just thinking of ways I'm gonna implement it. That's what I'm trying to think of.
So I have two other parts. What we can do is we can take a break and then you can just kind of think over it, maybe write some of those goals down, and then kind of, just think about it, right? And then we can come
Uh-huh.
back and then we can come back and do the other two. Depends on you because that's a lot of information, right?
Yeah.
And
So let's say we take a what do you mean a break? What's a break?
break for until your brain feels like you've absorbed that information and you have a good understanding of it, and then you're ready for new information, right? Because if I just throw a bunch of this information at you and nothing sticks, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, let's say like probably need a good like 3 days of break so I can really write them down and think about it.
Hmm.
I mean, so that when I come back, I'll have maybe questions or something. But I
Hmm.
think right now I really have to go on this zone and really contemplate on this and really just because I'm the type of person that I forget really easily, especially if new information comes in and I haven't really like gone over that information. So I need to like really go over this information.
Yeah, yeah. So go ahead and do that and kind of think about it. As you have questions, even if it's not 3 days yet or whenever, you can just text it to me. We can chat about it. If you need help kind of thinking through something, or if you just need, like, maybe I can throw, because sometimes it helps to kind of talk about it and reflect, and then some new ideas can kind of pop up to help you understand it, right? So if something like that pops up, you can just call me and or text me, and then we can go through it.
All right.
Yeah. So go over that one, and really write those goals down. Try to be as specific as you can. Write a time frame of when you think it will need to happen or when you want it to happen, and kind of write steps that are required to meet those goals.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All
Yeah.
right. And you
All
said,
right. Thanks.
yeah. So the next part we'll talk about is for kind of how to manage money, right?
Mhm.
So that's why I was asking you if you have a bank account.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll talk more about that, how to manage money, and kind of what you can do with your money, and what some of those opportunities are. We'll discuss that one, and then we'll also talk about credit cards and credit, right?
All right.
So those will be the next parts, but just focus on this one because then all of these ones then tie into this is the foundation. All of those ones are pretty much how you will. They're more tools for you to then achieve, those goals. So right now, just to set the
All right.
foundation, because if you don't really know what you're doing, some of this stuff makes no sense. It's like, okay, why do I even need a bank account? Why do I need this? Like, it doesn't make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So go ahead with that. Talk to you later.
But, all right. Thanks. I appreciate the knowledge, bro. The knowledge.
Hey,
Dropping it on me.
you got to pass down knowledge, man.